Hi, and welcome to today's broadcast. Before we begin, there are a few pieces of information to go over. In order to receive CPE credit for this program, you'll need to document your participation. You will see letter codes appear in the form of a graphic on your screen several times throughout the course, and you will need to capture every code in order to be issued credit. As each letter code appears, write it down, then enter it in the appropriate code submission box and click Submit. Remember to click Submit one final time at the conclusion of the program as well. You will then be issued a certificate documenting your attendance and credits earned. If you have a question at any point during the broadcast, you may submit it in the questions box. We will try to answer your question as soon as possible. Should you run into any technical difficulties, submit your codes, then try refreshing the page. If your problems persist, please call us at 973-226-4494. This broadcast is being recorded and will be available on our website shortly after its conclusion. Enjoy!
Well, good evening, everyone. Hello. I know you're waiting for cocktails, so okay. We'll get to those soon enough. But welcome to our 13th annual convention and expo here in Atlantic City and at the Borgata. Whether you're participating in person, and we do have folks who are participating virtually, so we want to welcome them as well. For those of you who, hopefully everyone should know me, but if you don't, I'm Ralph Albert Thomas. I'm the CEO and Executive Director of the New Jersey Society of CPAs. Technology is a great thing when it works, but it's made it possible for those who could not be here in person to be able to attend several of our convention sessions. Over the next 3 days, we will be live streaming several sessions, so if you know someone that's not here, give them a call because they may be interested in viewing. We do have a virtual convention pass available. Tonight we're going to be really honored to have someone come and share with us how you can build stronger, deeper relationships by effectively networking, which you can put into practice over the next 3 days or throughout your career. Questions can be asked using the convention mobile app. Hopefully you've loaded it up. And with that, I'm going to get ourselves rolling so we can get to that big thing afterwards, which is the cocktail suggestion. So please help me welcome to the podium Heather Sperduto from ADP. Heather's been on, and so ADP has been a long-term sponsor. Heather's a dynamic speaker. Many times I follow her, and it's a tough act to follow. So I'm glad I'm speaking now so that so that I don't have to come before her. So Heather, take it away.
Thank you,
and
sir.
Welcome to Atlantic City and the Borgata and the 13th Annual Convention and Expo for the New Jersey Society of CPAs.
Well, thank you very much, and welcome. Good evening, everyone. So I am Heather Sperduto from ADP's corporate office in New Jersey, and this month marks my 20th year at ADP. I don't know how it is that I graduated college and I share this story, because the day I graduated Rutgers, I actually had two majors. I majored in communication and art history. And I literally went to my graduation ceremony, and when I finished, I went to the New Jersey Society convention, and I worked the ADP booth that very day. So the only thing I can't remember, the only detail I can't remember is if I was in Secaucus, New Jersey, or someplace in Edison. But literally, from my very first day at ADP till 20 years later, I have the job of trying to figure out how we better work with all of you in the room. And that typically means that I am on a plane across the country in firms all over the nation to make sure that we have a pulse, that we're doing what best interests you and ultimately what best interests your clients. So this evening, as we kick off the festivities and I'm the first speaker here of your convention, we thought we would spend a little bit of time talking about your brand. Because your brand is critical in every interaction you have, whether you think about the interactions with your family members, with your friends, with your clients, or the colleagues in your office. And in today's environment, I think you would all agree, we live in this fast-paced world, and information is in abundance. And to some of us, we might even indicate that the information at times is in like an overload fashion. And I compliment the society because an event like this where they bring you all in and give you such great content and thought leadership and speakers to help you with your development, from an ADP perspective, we could not be more of a proud sponsor since 2010 of the society. So that's us on the ADP side. In terms of the curriculum, just to kind of get you grounded in the design, at ADP, we have one of the top-ranked sales forces year over year. And very often, when I work on our training curriculum, I then say, well, how could I translate this over to the CPA profession as a way to say thank you for the relationships that we have with each and every one of you? Now, as you go through the next several days and you hear from a variety of different speakers, you'll most definitely get a pulse as to what's going on in the accounting profession. If I had to guess, speaker after speaker will probably give you some sort of perspective, so it's my turn to kick off the conversation. I will tell you that as you look at some of the content delivered by things like Accounting Today or CPA Practice Advisors, right in the forefront, all of you are indicating in some fashion growing your practice is a pretty significant part of your goals. Whether you're a one-person operation, you work in a small little boutique firm, or you work in one of the major players throughout the state, 44% of the time, the research is saying that gaining new clients and keeping your existing clients is important to the majority of us here in the room. Now, I'm kind of excited, and people ask me, they say, hey, Heb, 20 years in the accounting profession, like, don't you want to, like, drift? How about bankers? Would you want to go work with bankers or attorneys? What's the deal with CPAs? But when I look at the landscape of your profession, specifically now and what's happening, if you look at robotics, with the use of technology and robotics, the way that you probably grew up in the accounting profession and the work that you did is very different than what you do today. So technology's been a win because it's taken away some of those mundane tasks. In addition, though, if you consider AI, how about this statistic? 72% of accountants are saying they either have or they plan on embracing AI to make themselves more competitive. Now, I had the pleasure, CPA Practice Advisor hosted a Thought Leader Symposium in Indianapolis back in February. And I was totally jazzed by their latest member, who's this guy, Joey Havens, from Horn LLP in the middle of the country in Mississippi. And if you ever have the opportunity to check out his blogs, he is such a forward thinker in the profession. He's like a breath of fresh air. And when you look at this concept of all of you kind of rebranding and shifting yourselves to more of a strategic advisor, which I kind of thought you were all along, but this seems to be the buzz out there on the street, you know, this guy Joey says, hey, my firm can't do it. I'm not going to let them do it until they have the right mindset. Because you can't go to school for accounting and be in that box of what you do in terms of tax and audit, and then all of a sudden ask the people in your firms to go out and, in essence, rebrand themselves as advisors, as consultants, and in actuality have a little sales realm to their skill set. You got to coach. You got to give them the tools and the skill set that maybe they didn't have when they originally came into the profession. Now this one kind of intrigues me a ton. When the stat came out that in 2020, 75% of the accounting profession was getting ready to retire, it seemed like that year was so far away. And here we are in 2018, and that's right around the corner. But in actuality, it really opens the door for a lot of mergers and acquisitions that are going on throughout the space. And I know you have speakers lined up this week like Alan Colton, who is phenomenal at this topic. But the exciting part is there's this whole new emerging talent pool that's coming into the profession. And how it is that those generations complement each other to ultimately give your clients the best service experience, I don't know, it seems kind of cool to me when you think about that. And then when things change, and it doesn't matter what side of the political spectrum you fall on, when there are legislative changes, your clients get confused. Now, if I had to ask you how this tax season went, I will just share with you that I was at an event with the New York CPA Society in Staten Island the day that tax reform came out. And at the dinner, they were all just shaking their heads. And they said, this has been in play for less than like 5 hours. And my clients are calling me like wildfire. They wanted to know, should they pay their property taxes before the end of the year? And they just kept saying, like, I need a little bit of time to digest this myself. But there's a lot of small business owners, and when they think about this year, they think they're going to be paying less in taxes. And if that's the case, you become that advisor to help coach them as to what they can do to reinvest that money back in their businesses so that they can look forward and figure out like where that future growth comes from. So that's just a little bit of the landscape as I see the profession and some of the research that I continue to do on my side. In terms of our objective this evening, I want you to really like think about this as like a little bit of a self-reflection. So how do you kind of cut through all of the clutter that's out there to ultimately form deeper relationships? Because when you have those really strong relationships, and I get it, you tell your clients to jump and they typically say how high. So if there's any industry or any profession out there, you know, I look at our close ratio when you give us a referral and it's as high as 80%. But that also needs to continue to translate as you look at all of those factors that we just went over in the profession. So your brand is very simply, how do you distinguish yourself? How do you do it in a memorable way? And on occasion, it's a beautiful scenario when you have the ability to remind yourself as to what you stand for. There was an article in the Wall Street Journal around the holidays. And there was a CPA who was quoted, and he said, hey, we're coming up to the holiday season, and as I go to cocktail parties and I tell people I'm an accountant, they say, oh, exciting, right? And then he says, now, all of a sudden, I have that conversation, and people are seeking me out, and I'm the most popular person in the room because everybody is looking for you for that guidance. So it's the things about what inspire you and what makes you the most proud. Because when I ask people, why'd you go into the accounting profession? Sometimes they say, well, I like numbers, so I was good at math. But I think it's much more than that, right? I think it's that interaction you have with your clients and discovering with them the route that they take to be great at what they do. Now, I'm pretty fortunate that I worked closely with Accounting Today when they had launched their best firms to work for. So ADP is a sponsor, but on the end of the campaign that occurs, I actually got to go out to some of the top firms in the country that received the award. And I got to deliver the award and see their culture firsthand. And here in New Jersey, firms like Witham have won the award. The Spire Company's has won the award. But also, I'll just give you an example with Wilkin and Guttenplan. And you all know Ed, who stepped up and was your fearless leader throughout the New Jersey Society this year. But when you think about brand, here's an individual that runs a firm, a mid-sized firm, and somehow finds the time to step in and lead the society. And then when I look at Wilkin and Guttenplan, I look at someone like one of their recent partners, Gail Rosen. And when I look at Gail, I think of someone who is so charismatic, but then also is an incredible thought leader. She was one of the first individuals out there and doing things like blogging to reach and gain more clients. But when I think about the best firms to work for, when I go and give them the award, it was right around Thanksgiving. And here in the office, every single individual was celebrating and having a feast and feeling as if they were the most important person in that firm. So that's brand, right? Brand is the giving back, that sense of charity, that sense of volunteerism, that sense of welcoming. That's brand. So from my perspective at ADP, we've been around almost 70 years. And this is a picture of ADP in Times Square. Forbes thinks that we are one of the most innovative companies that's out there. But when you've been around for 70 years and you have a brand recognition like that, you also got to make sure that people don't think that you're your grandfather's payroll company. You got to be hip and you got to be cool. And when we're responsible for 60 million lives in 113 countries, with over 600,000 clients, we're always trying to figure out, like, where's the next one going to come from? And these days, it's actually employees that dictate the future of what it's going to be like to work. So I just share with you a little bit of perspective, and I'm going to show you a video that demonstrates our innovation lab in Chelsea, New York, which is way different than the way Henry Taub started our company as a CPA out of his garage. Here's now the future of work.
This is how it always happens. Throughout human history, all over the world, this is how innovation begins. Whether we're talking cave, cottage, cabin, garage, city, suburb, we're saying, guy gets out, has a thought, looks around, starts to walk, first on rocks, then dirt, soon a path becomes a road, a horse becomes a bike, car, bus, plane. This is how quickly things can change, how an idea will move us forward, how one thought from one person can change how things are done. That is why now we carry smartphones instead of checks. It's the nature of new business to do business by text. Now, keeping in touch means touch screens and the world is refreshed at a rate so fast it simply remains new, which means companies now have to rethink how people work, adjust to new demands, create new ways of doing things we already do. We can't just go through the motions of innovation. We have to let innovation be the motion going through us, letting it move us forward, and it always begins the same. Some guy, some girl go out for a walk. Rocks become roads because of a thought. That is how now becomes the future, then becomes now. Computers become clouds, desks become mobile. A small company in Paterson, New Jersey becomes global. Because early on, they understood that innovation is the force that moves us forward, like horse becoming horsepower, becoming power of ideas, becoming ideas that help power the world. And that is why one day, somewhere along the way, this company had the bright idea to embrace innovation, to create a new type of space and fill it with the right type of people, all with one objective: to chase down the best ideas, because the best ideas are the ones where everybody wins. The better the work they do here, the better the way you do work here. Here is where innovation begins.
The future of your profession, it's here, right? It's not down the road, it's here. And as you think about your brand and your experience, you need to consider, what does that look like, your interaction on a personal, professional level? What does it look like externally with your clients versus internally with your associates? Where does that expertise lie, and ultimately that loyalty from your clients? Those are factors to consider. So on the screen, when I consider my brand, I kid you not, but everything I've learned about who I am truly stems from my dad. Now, you were all kind enough several years ago to award my dad as the Educator of the Year from the New Jersey CPA Society. He was at the dinner last year. So somehow I did not get the CPA gene, but I am the daughter of a CPA. So I'm hoping that gives me like an ounce of credibility. But on the screen, you're going to notice a couple bullets or quotes up there. And the first one is about creating moments. And I will tell you that for me, my dad, and now I see it in my children, if there was a lesson to be learned, and he was the teacher, he created the experience. So for example, if I had a school project and I needed to have some sort of lesson in history, he would seek out within the state of New Jersey where I could go to actually feel as if I was part of the history that happened hundreds of years ago. But here's my kids, and my older son decided that he had this knack and he wanted to learn more about crabs. So my father seeks out Rumson, New Jersey, the Salt Creek Grill, and apparently he discovered that behind the Salt Creek Grill there are thousands of horseshoe crabs. So here's my dad with my two little kids on this journey to actually have them experience what that's like. But I also share with you that my dad is always in the moment. And I know this is tough with modern technology. It is so hard to put down our mobile device and actually have a conversation. But doesn't it feel really good when someone gives you their undivided attention? People know, your clients know when they call you and you're multitasking. And you're like, I got it. It's in the mail. I'll send it to you. Give people your undivided attention and create the unexpected. That goes a long way when you consider your brand. And your brand starts, for those of you that have children and for those of you that have grandchildren, it starts as early as when people form relationships, when they're 4 and they're 5 and they're 6. And that carries through to where we are modern day as you think about the next several days that you have here, the ability to network. Whether it's with each other or with the vendors that you'll be able to walk around and interact with and learn, the opportunities are there for you to be able to take advantage of. In today's society, and in particular as we went over in your profession, I think this is a beautiful depiction as you look across the span of generations that are working together. And when you consider their values, how it is that they embrace technology, and the manner in which they prefer to be communicated with, it's different. And that's not a bad thing. And I will tell you that oftentimes people will say, hey, can you come in and host a workshop on understanding millennials? Millennials are old news. As of 30 days ago, we at ADP hired Gen Zs. So if you look at the age bracket, the youngest millennials are 23 years old. So if you haven't figured out millennials, buckle up because the next generation is coming your way. Not just in your firms, but your clients. Like, don't you find that some of your clients are starting to shift? They're selling their businesses or their family-owned businesses, and they're passing down to the next generation. Well, the style in which you worked with the owner of a manufacturing company for the last 20 years might need to adapt to the son or daughter that's taking over the business. And if you picked up the phone to call them and interact with them, guess what? That might not be the best option for the 35-year-old that's coming in that would much prefer a text. It's not about understanding one versus the other. It's about how do you understand the commonality, the blend, and figure out the good. If you're in a position in a firm, if you do work in a firm or even in industry, one of the things that we highly encourage internally in my world is reverse mentoring. Because some of the best ideas out there from technology and innovation come from the younger people in our organizations. But at the same time, one would argue, especially in your profession, you have all this information out there. In modern day, people can get answers. But do they really know how to apply them? And you still need to be the person with the insight to be able to coach, whether it's your colleagues or your clients, to do that advising with them. From a technology perspective, it's an integral part of our lives. You need to make sure that at your firms, if you have staff, that their technology at home is not better than the technology you give them in your firm. In addition, your clients and how it is that you interact with them. They expect speed, they expect immediate responses, right? How is the technology in your firm adapting to what it is that the clients are looking for? It's part of the experience, and we need to shape ourselves to make sure that we're there. To me, I think it's my favorite slide of the whole presentation. You can have all the technology in the world, but once in a while, it is nice to look up. It's nice to look up and have really genuine conversations. And I encourage you, whether at the cocktail reception this evening, tomorrow, after you hear from some of the speakers and you're kind of digesting the information, go have conversations with your peers and figure out how it is that you're going to go back to your offices and take action. Social media is there. The technology has embraced it. And clients are increasingly looking to connect with you as the advisor in that fashion. So if you don't believe me, I'll give you an example. This is Facebook from my hometown. My buddy Kenny's here. Kenny, where are you? There he is. Kenny's an accountant in Matawan, New Jersey. As I was scrolling through Facebook when I was really trying to go to sleep, and I should have been going to sleep, but this was my way of a bedtime story. Right before tax season, or maybe it was in the middle of tax season, I see that this woman is looking for a CPA. And I'm like, holy cow, I didn't think that ever happened like that in social media. I thought you just got all your referrals. So she was someone new to the area. She was looking for an accountant, and she put it out there. So in my mind, I'm thinking, like, this is my wheelhouse. Like, I'm getting ready. I'm like, who am I going to recommend? Should I call Kenny? Should I walk in his office? What should I do? And then all of a sudden, as I look at the comments, let me introduce you to Nick Basha. So there's a firm in my town, and this guy, Joe Basha, you walk in all the pizza places in our town, and this guy does all their accounting work. He has a thriving practice, but he's winding down. He personally is winding down. He has two sons that are now both CPAs that are taking over the practice. And I called them the other day just to make sure that I verified this stat and I had it right. Last year, as they went through tax season, Nick and Joe grew the practice by 300 clients. And it was all about networking with their peers from college, associations they work with, social media, to the point where, as I looked in the comments, who do you think jumped in and responded to that woman who was looking for a CPA? It was Nick, the guy that's on social media with the shirt that says, "I love my accountant," with a quick, simple note that said, "I would welcome the opportunity to be your accountant, and I look forward to talking with you." That's how people are out there looking. Because your clients, your potential clients, they're researching you. Believe it or not, whether it's Googling your name, before they even get to that first phone call or that email, they've already done their research on you. When they get an email from you, believe it or not, the style of your writing, the way it is that you respond with your signature line, these are all things that are considered before that first interaction with a potential new client. And in addition, they've expected that you've done your research as well. I don't know how many of you are on the receiving end of conversations, but in my world, I get called on by salespeople all the time, which is ironic because I work in a sales operations group. But I get contacted by salespeople across the country, and sometimes they fly in and we have meetings, and I am blown away by the amount of information they know about me personally. Where I went to school, who I'm connected with, right? Like, I come in and they're like, We have 72 connections in common. I'm like, holy cow, I just brought my business card, right? I didn't know that level of research would happen before the meeting. But the way people buy is changing, right? Think about the last time you bought something. My parents have a beach house. We've been there 10 years. They rebuilt it. Well, we've been there 30 years. However, they rebuilt it 10 years ago, right before Hurricane Sandy arrived. So we were very fortunate that the house was in pretty good shape. I wish the rest of the neighborhood I could say the same. But here we are 10 years later, and the house looks like it should be zoned for commercial hoteling. The amount of people, if you ever want to know how many friends you have, apparently you get a beach house and there you have it, that's what happens. My husband's friends come by the fivefold, like they used to show up with themselves, and now they pack the car with like suitcases and they pull up and my dad says, how long are they staying? I say, I don't know, but it looks like a while. But I tell you this because the other day I'm like, I need to hit refresh. We got to hit refresh on the beach house. We need new rugs, we need new curtains, we need a new kitchen faucet. And within 15 minutes, everything was done on Amazon and arrived at the house within the next 48 hours. Did I need somebody to help me? No. I even got free shipping on every single item. Did I do any research? Well, I'll ask you. Last time you bought something, and let's just say, hypothetically speaking, you have a fast draw with Amazon like myself. How do you do your research? Modern day. This is where I'm looking for a response. The comments and the reviews. That's how I shop. So now you really need to think about who influences the decision. So if you're going to go meet with a potential client, it's almost like you got to disrupt their mind that's already made up. You got to take a couple steps back and reframe what it is that they think they already know. In social media, short and sweet. Less is more. It's got to be memorable. And when you consider your brand, is your brand unique? Is it true and defensible? And ultimately, is it interesting to your clients? This is the part of the exercise where I need you to take a minute or two and I need you to self-reflect. And I truly want you to consider whether you have a notebook or if you have an iPhone or if you have an iPad with you. I need you to take a look at the statements that are up on the screen. And I want you to consider what inspires you about what it is that you do for a living. What do you care about the most? Do you have a certain area of expertise? But I love the one on the bottom. If I were to talk to your happiest clients, what would they say about you? What would your happiest clients say about you? So just take a second and I want you to think about the things that are up on that screen. Now this is where somebody has to volunteer. So if I asked one of your happiest clients, what do you think that they would say is a reflection of you? I'm so glad Ed volunteered, and I didn't even pay him beforehand. That was because I said nice things about you. I know, I'm good. Go ahead. Okay, so Ed says, for everybody in the room, what makes him happy as happiest clients is when they say that they love his staff. Give me one more. Somebody else in the room. Your happiest clients, what would they say? I'm coming back. It's true. It's true.
Some of my clients do say I love your staff, okay? But some of my clients tell me, I love you, man, but you are too expensive.
Oh, so they love you, but they say that you're too expensive. Right. And that's where you got to go and reframe and make sure they truly understand those new consulting and advising services that you're offering. With your brand, here's my 7-year-old. I got 2 kids, they're 5 and 7, but I'm going to put up Luke for this example. Because the other day when I came home, here was his project. He was learning about adjectives. And I go, son of a gun, he's building his brand. He described himself because that was the question that was asked of him. And apparently, he's funny, he's athletic, he's fast, he's happy, and he's fun. I hope that those characteristics, those qualities, and those adjectives stay with him throughout the entire duration of his life. Is it unique? Is it honest? And if I go back just 1 second, if your name wasn't attached to your description, would we know who you are? So I tested this out at we have a lot of company in my house. And as I was preparing, we actually did a dry run of this with the Bergen chapter a couple weeks ago. I had a dinner party, and I made them go through the exercise of describing their brand, and they thought I was a little off my rocker. But what I did was I had them write it down on cue cards. We mixed them up, and then we read them. It was kind of like playing charades, only I did it with real-life examples. And could we identify who at this dinner party of 12 people was being described? To me, if you take anything away from today's session, that is the essence of your brand. If I could pick one social media platform, I'll just kind of throw out there LinkedIn, and by no means is this like an ins and outs of LinkedIn, but I needed an example to kind of summarize so that you could take action. So I thought that LinkedIn would be a good one because professionally, this is where people tend to gravitate the most. Your profile should be strong. Make it a habit of going out there and researching, making connections to grow your network. But do you just have the profile, or are you using it as a platform to share thought leadership kind of information? We established that your clients are looking for you. So A, can they find you? And when they find you, what is it that they see? Is your profile set up to entice a client? Or is it set up like a resume to entice a recruiter? The resume is probably not the good option. There is a very direct correlation between your completeness of your profile versus how many searches you come up in, to the tune of 40 times more likely to be found in searches if your profile is complete. That means you got your name, you have your title, you have a picture. Now, for those of you that have staff in your offices, or if you work in industry, same sort of thing, you would think that this would be common sense, but the picture is where it goes awry. How often do you look and search someone and you find this picture and their significant other is cut off? Or they're at a party and they're cheersing and there's a drink in hand. Like, that's maybe from a personal social media perspective, but professionally, you want to make sure that the picture represents you in your truest fashion in a professional environment. So this is where you like learn ideas and you steal them. So what we do, because I have like in offices across the country, I probably have anywhere from 30 to 50 millennials in our sales organization. So what we do periodically, and everybody loves it, is we hire a photographer. But I'm talking like a freelance photographer, costs us $300. We put a nice little backdrop, we tell them their picture is going to be taken that day, and they all come in and take these beautiful pictures. And there's standardization, they're represented in a great fashion, it's economical, people enjoy it, and at the end of the day, it's pretty fun. But it should be a high quality resolution, and it should represent yourself in a really good fashion. Now, when you think about like your headline, you know, this is where people tend to put like their title or who it is that they work for. But you want to think a little bit more outside the box, and it goes back to that example of the Wall Street Journal and what people think when you announce that you're an accountant. How do you captivate their attention? How do you position yourself, instead of a historian, as more of a forward thinker, where you're looking at your clients and you're planning with your clients? And in addition, you know, maybe you're the one that empowers organizations to improve their bottom line. I don't know, that's kind of intriguing because I don't know if I would recognize you as an accountant. Here's an example of like a summary, because now you kind of move into the summary. Now you could say, I'm a tax accountant, do a lot of returns, 1140s, whatever the numbers are that continue to come down. Maybe you have some extensions on the horizon, you do audit work, or maybe you frame up that your practice is a boutique firm. You specialize in healthcare, but you got this really strong niche for dental practices because you know that they're unique. And if you think about it, the best thing is your goal is when your clients succeed, it makes you succeed. And it kind of goes back to the example that Ed gave. There's a reason he likes it when his clients are happy with his staff, because that's the success factor and the recipe for a winning culture and a winning organization. Now, if you're going to go out there and you're going to make connections, do me a favor, don't make them cold. So if you're going to invite somebody into your LinkedIn network, yeah, you can hit the standard button. That's the easy way out. But why not take a minute or two and actually customize that connection? Learn from the vendors that are here tomorrow and the next day. They're good at this. I don't know about you, but yesterday, all of a sudden, I had these beautiful LinkedIn invitations. So apparently, they knew I was coming, but they were customized. Stop by my booth. I can't wait to see you. We have some commonality between our organizations. I was intrigued, and you know what? Tomorrow, I'll go seek them out. You make the connections before, but make the connections after. That's the follow-up when people continue to remember. So if you need some help when you think about thought leadership, I'll just share with you, and there's a lot of information that's out there. That's kind of the way we started in terms of information overload. So I'm going to narrow down a couple things in my world. If I were to give a little bit of a snapshot pertaining to tax reform, there's changes. And when there are changes, again, it could be a lucrative environment for you as you go out there and help your clients. At ADP, we have people that work in DC. And as fast as a change comes out, like literally the other day, they said in 2019, the W-4 is changing. One would think that it's not that big of a deal, but when I got ADP's Cliff Note version of it and I read it, I rubbed my eyes and I read it again. And I said, what do you mean there's going to be no exemptions? Everybody claims married one. Like, how are they going to know how much to deduct? But this literally, one sheet, front and back, describes in actuality what that new W-4 is going to look like. So if you have clients that have employees, they're going to need to know. So here would be an example where it's turnkey, it's ready. In your LinkedIn, you could go ahead and post the information where you check the box that you informed your clients in terms of what they should be prepared for. In addition, if I were to go to kind of like when you turn the page from one year to the next, we have these HR tips of the week, and they're out there, right? They're in our Account Connect experience, they're simply on our website. But here's a map where we had accountants across the country said, why would I recreate this? Here's a map of the country and every single minimum wage that's going to change. In the world we live in, I'm assuming not all of your clients are in New Jersey, nor are their employees. And coupled with that is the wage and tax facts that says, okay, federally for 2018, here's everything you need to know, and here's everything you need to know from a state level. Now, if you're wondering, okay, well, how do I get my hands on this information? I will tell you that a couple years ago, we invited accountants in. There were 18 of them from across the country. We had them stay at the Marriott in Morristown. And for 2 days, they were like a beautiful mind. And we were trying to create what we later named Accountant Connect. And they drew exactly what they wanted from that experience. I will tell you that 18 months after we've launched Accountant Connect, 25,000 of you and your peers log into ADP's Accountant Connect every day. It's free. We hit a milestone 2 weeks ago. The 25,000 accountants have downloaded over 1 million reports for the mutual clients that we share. So as long as your client says it's okay, we invite you, or you invite them into your dashboard, and then you could run the reports. You could do it in a bulk situation where you don't have to do them one by one. You could say, hey, I have 10 clients, I need their 941, press a button, and there you go. But so much of that thought leadership is also included. So they're logging in because when they log in, up pops the eye in Washington that says, here's your brand new W-4, here's what's gonna happen, go make sure that your clients are aware. So I do need one favor as we start to kick it into high gear and go into the cocktail reception. Some of my counterparts are out in Las Vegas at the AICPA Engage conference, and they keep showing me pictures of all of the people at the ADP booth that are getting on Accountant Connect. So tomorrow, I need to take a similar picture and send it back to them in Las Vegas and say, here's what's going on in Atlantic City. But all kidding aside, I just encourage you that if you're not taking advantage of it, like I mentioned, it's absolutely complimentary. It helps us. We're here to support you. Refining your brand, it doesn't happen overnight. It's something that should continue to change and improve, and especially in modern day where the accounting profession is going, it's exciting. Build your reputation that you are that center of influence, and always be in the moment with your clients. You have a great story, and your story is waiting to be told. And I couldn't be more thrilled for you as you continue your education and you go into the next several days with an open mind to uncover how it is that you are going to make your practice thrive through the remainder of 2018 and as you spark a really lucrative 2019. So I appreciate your participation, your interest, and I wish you guys a phenomenal convention with the New Jersey State CPA Society. That's it. I think we go right to cocktails. Is that the way this works, Ralph? Yes. Oh, I just told everybody you could go have a cocktail. Now we have a question. Okay, I hope it's a good one.
This is a good one. Growing your practice is becoming increasingly difficult considering good staff is rare. Where is the line between growth and great service? Difficult to have both when all firms have trouble retaining good staff.
So the question, in case anybody, I'll kind of summarize it to make sure everybody heard it, but it's everybody kind of wants to grow their practice, but at the same time, you have to have great staff. And for me, just in my observations as I travel around the country, you know, I think it's that culture piece, but I also think it's what it is that you put into your existing staff. And your ability to continue to motivate them and give them the skill set and the tools needed will make it that they have friends. Think about it. They also know people in the profession. One of your biggest resources to get great talent, it's exactly the way you get your business from your existing clients today. It's through referrals. They have friends in the profession, and if they like where it is that they go to work every day and they feel confident in their brand, they will help you attract clients and they will help you attract talent. Good? All right, well, you guys have a fabulous evening.